2023. The time is 6:45 this evening, and we are in the boardroom of the H.J. McAllister building. This meeting has been posted in the order needed, and we are calling this meeting to order at 6:45. If you all would please stand. Trustee Nunez, would you stand?
Dear Father, just thank you, Lord, for this bringing us here today, Lord. Just thank you for letting us be able to honor Taryn this evening, Lord God. We just lift her up in our prayers as she continues this fight, Lord. And I just ask you that you be with each and every one of us here, that you let us know what our focus is on, Lord, and just bless everybody as they're here and their travels home. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is a quorum present with seven trustees present. Moving on to the next item of business, celebration of excellence. One of our favorite parts of the meeting. How are you this evening? Good, how are you? Doing well, thank you.
Well, usually we have our students here for the celebration of excellence, but this time we're going to do something a little special for you guys. You guys are going to be honored celebrating tonight for the celebration of excellence. And our students across the campus made you guys these cute baskets with a lot of different goodies. So I'll just invite you all to come up around the table. We'll take a picture and grab your basket.
And there is 2 students from each campus here today.
So I need those students as well to come up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wait. Thank you so much.
That's my favorite.
Right there from the end.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Jessie.
And we're going to call for a picture. Michael actually has a statement that he wants to read to you guys that he wrote. So we're going to allow him to read that and we'll get the y'all together.
Bay City ISD Board of Education, I would like to thank you for your service on behalf of all students at Bay City ISD, teachers and staff. The countless hours that you spend serving our district and community do not go unnoticed. Just thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, just hold it for me. Perfect. One more. 1, 2, 3, hold it for me. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank
Oh, you're right. Thank you all so much. That was so kind. Thank y'all for coming. So special. Really appreciate each of you. We'll move into the next portion of our meeting, and so I that much respect that it's a school night, so if you would like to head out, we truly appreciate you coming and honoring us. That is such a blessing, and it's a blessing, I know, for everyone to be able to serve the community in the capacity that we do. So again, thank you for the recognition and the honor in that. Moving on to audience with patrons. So this is an opportunity for community members to address the board. This is your time and your privilege to say what you would like. However, with that privilege comes responsibility. I encourage you to speak, each speaker to remember that we are here for the same purpose, which is to do what is best for all students in Bay City ISD. Additionally, if within your comments you conclude complaints or charges against a Bay City ISD officer or employee by name, you will be stopped in accordance with section 551.074. At this time, you will be given the option to continue with your comments that do not involve specific individuals by name, or forego the rest of your comments to file an official grievance against the individual based on current policy, which is the GF legal and GF local. Finally, in pursuant to the board operating procedures policy and the Open Meetings Act, the board is only to respond with specific factual information of existing policy to any inquiries in the public. So we have two people that will be speaking this evening. Our first is Mrs. Stone. Good evening. How are you, ma'am? Oh, so you can come up to the podium, but the podium is touch screen.
Okay.
So just so you know, if things start going haywire behind us.
Okay.
Yes. Not a problem. You do have 3 minutes this evening, and we will let you know before that happens, if you just have one.
Good evening, my name is Erica Stone. I am the receptionist at Tenny Holmes Elementary, and I have been in this position for almost 2 years. I am here today to dispute the removal of our principal at Tenny Holmes Elementary and how our superintendent and his administrative team handled the situation. The district's irrational decision to do this was executed poorly, and it has caused so much damage to our former principal and the staff of Tenny Holmes and our community as well. Last week, Wednesday, January 11th, our superintendent and his team abruptly scheduled a meeting for our campus after school to notify us that our former principal would no longer be there at our campus and to introduce our new interim principal. The window for any questions concerning this sudden change was completely closed off. However, the door to speculations and rumors was left wide open. And so many people from our community and staff within our district took part in the most disgusting display of comments that dragged our former principal's name through the horrid speculations as to why he was dismissed from our campus. The things posted on social media about him are things that I hope and pray his wife and his children never see. The following day after his dismissal, I received so many phone calls from parents concerned about the safety of their children at our campus. Think about that for a second. See, a bomb was dropped at Tenny Holmes Elementary. And since that day, we have been left to clean up the mess on our own. There was no regard for the staff, students, or parents and how this would affect us moving forward. We've taken the full brunt of this scandal, and no one in this district has bothered to help. It wasn't until these rumors got so bad that the district decided to put out a statement trying to clear the rumors about our former principal and his reassignment. I say a little too late because the damage had already been done. In the most recent article published in the Sunday Tribune, a statement reads, that he was a valued employee. If this is how the district treats its valued employees, please do not include me in that category. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. He was the right person to lead our campus, as this district itself put the time and effort to select him for this position. I am saddened, I have distrust, and I am extremely disappointed with how this district handled this situation.
Next, we have Mrs. Kavasik. Good evening. How are you this evening?
Good evening. I stand in front of you today speaking not just for myself, but representing many staff members of Tenny Home staff. Since we are limited on time to speak, some of them were not able to make tonight. Some of them were able to make it tonight, some of them not, but it is a large number of people who are very upset Mr. Cole is gone. Mr. Cole took over when we were in a terrible and fragile state. Our OHI scores were all in the red, our star rating was a C, morale was low, and we were very short-staffed. He inherited a mess that he didn't create, but took the challenge of fixing it head-on. He came in with a positive attitude and rallied us all together, saying that we were going to get through this together. He took every challenge that came his way with pride, never giving up on his faith in us and how great our school could become. However, he did want us to understand it was going to take time. Time was not given to him. He was given one short semester trying to fix and heal a campus that had been broken over the last few years. Data shows that it takes 66 days for behavior to change. Our first semester was given 77 and a half. That means it was only 11 days left in the semester to start to see a change in behavior on campus. We were just starting to see the change. We were just starting to heal, and then bam, he was taken away. Mr. Cole is a true leader. Caring about people is not something that can be taught. Mr. Cole created relationships with students, parents, and staff, and provided consistency for our campus. Relationships and consistency are how you retain teachers. Teachers' retention increase students' achievement. If we want the best for our students, then we need the best people leading us. Mr. Cole is one of the best. I have never seen one person make such a large and positive impact on so many people. Morale improved drastically. Our students craved his attention because he was such a positive male role model for them. The number of staff who are upset over his departure should speak volumes and show how much of an impact he made in such a short time. He came from the high school so highly spoken of. Many staff reached out to let us know how upset they were he was leaving them, but how lucky we were to be gaining him. We all have been given a second chance, and so should Mr. Cole. We should be given a second chance and put him back on our campus as a principal to continue the work he started and to be given a fair opportunity to fix our campus and get it back to the A status we know it can be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Moving along, we will go straight into LSG. Good morning, sir. How are you? Or evening, it's not morning, sorry.
I'm
How are
doing
you
well.
this evening?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
Good to be here. So tonight, we're going to be going over goal 3, which is CCMR. And we have some good results. And you may remember last year when we got to the end of the year, we had what I would call like almost shocking results. They were outstanding. And, you know, that's kind of what happens at the end of the year. A lot of these things are complete. But at this time, we're going to invite Estella to come up, and I'm going to put the PowerPoint forward for you. And we're going to look at goal 3. This is increasing the percent of graduates that are college, career, and military ready from 64% to 90% by August 2024. And our first goal progress measure has to do with TSI. So we're going to look at TSI We're gonna look at dual credit, and we're also gonna look at industry-based certification.
Thank you. Thank you again for giving us the opportunity to be here and showcase some of the great things that happened at Bay City High School. I will explain that you will not see significant changes in December, but I do have some projected numbers of some of those changes and how it will affect the students. So the students who receive TSI score, they have to pass all 3 TSI, English, writing, and math. So just last year, on the weekends, we had 12 opportunities for the students to take the TSI. We have again 12 more opportunities this Saturday for them to come and take their TSI. So they don't just come and take the TSI, they have tutors that take their time and teach them before they take it, maybe after they take it, so they can have the opportunity to take it. Right now, you see that it went up from a 19 to a 22, but I am projecting already that we have a 90%. That's not our goal. When we are looking at our data, 90% of them have reached their goals, but it is combined also with them passing their English and their math class. So we're not able to send them to college and say they are college and career ready if they cannot pass their English and their math test at Bay City High School. So we are just waiting for that last component, which they will pass because we monitor them every 6 weeks and make sure that they are passing. If they are not passing and they're not meeting standards, we call the parents every 6 weeks. And we come up with a plan so we'll be able to help them and give them that success. So I'm really happy that it's already 90%. But truthfully, our work right now for the next semester is going to be the 10%. Why are those 10% of students are not reaching their goals, and what are our plans to help them reach it? So as you can tell with the subpopulations, we also broke it down. We have our African Americans stayed at a 12%. The projected is already way surpassed that. Our Hispanic is a 19%, our white improved by 10%, economically disadvantaged by 4%, and our English language learners stayed at 5%. So that is the goal for TSI in college and career ready. The next goal that we have is the students earning the industry-based certification. So the last couple of weeks, we had over, yes, sir.
3.1, whenever they come up on Saturday to take the TSI, they can take it multiple times, right?
That is
As
true.
many times as they want.
They
They
can
don't
take
have
it.
to pay anything each time, like, it's completely covered, they can take it every Saturday.
That is correct. And the students actually also have an opportunity to test during the school day. The Saturday is just an opportunity for them to come at another time. And due to our district support on goals, they don't have to pay anything to take or retake this test.
So we said that they had 4 opportunities as a middle to take it, correct now, I think I called it in.
No, they have as many opportunities as they want to take it. Yes, and in fact, they take it all the way to December after graduation.
Okay.
So for example, we had students that graduated and then they say, I don't want to go to college. And then in the summer, they call and say, I changed my mind, can I still take the TSI? And of course, we welcome them back. Not just do we want that for our community, but it also helps with our accountability. So our CCMR scores were able to change them and upload them in our system all the way to December. Thank you for letting me update that. Any questions about that? I should have asked the questions before I go on.
Estelle, I'd like to
Yes,
just
sir.
make a comment that you made about the TSIA versus college class. The college class is often referred to as a college preparatory class. And that is kind of one of those ways when you complete the class, you get CCMR credit. So when you look at an accountability score, let's say other districts, they would get credit for CCMR through taking the class only. But as Estelle has told us tonight, we hold a higher standard for TSIA testing, which means you're college ready. In the near future, Mr. Townsend will be presenting the taper report. And so we'll be able to even get down and show you college ready versus taking the class. And I think that's a huge point because then our students don't have to take remediation courses and it gets them truly college ready. So thank you for mentioning that part about the college prep course, because the TSIA, which you all push on Saturdays before, after, during school, that is a much higher standard than what is reported on the accountability.
So that's the one thing I want to applaud you on, is that you are holding them accountable. And that you still trying to keep that high expectation like that. And I have a question, one more, just attendance, African American, has you got many there?
So attendance for everyone has improved a lot. So some of the goals that we're doing at Bay City High School, we take attendance second period, and then we download the students that were absent. Usually it's about from 58 to 100. And a lot of our students, sometimes they're not doing well. Sometimes they're just not coming to school. So our staff at Bay City High School, we divide our list and we call our kids, because sometimes they're not doing well. So that phone call, just to call from school and say, hey, we're checking on so-and-so, just wondering if he or she is not okay. For the most part, would be very positive feedback, and parents appreciate us checking on them. There are times that students are truly not at school and they're supposed to be at school. So again, it also helps with safety and working together as partners, and the parents are able to help us truly have a safety plan for that student that did not come to school like they should. And in return, our attendance has gone up as well. And as you know, if they're at school, overall, everything is going to improve.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Green, I want to know about the salaries and the attendance, specifically for the African American.
For cyber school, yes. So I'll share with you that cyber school is still a challenge. We still have to communicate. We offer those opportunities, and thank you for asking. Our teachers do remind the students ahead of time. We send reminders ahead of time. We call those parents specifically for those kids that do need to come. There is a house bill that we're supposed to be in compliance with, that students need to be at cyber school and innovation at least 30% of the time. And I'll tell you, for the most part, the teachers and the staff get the burden of having to call and remind that we still don't have those 30 hours. So that's still a challenge. What I noticed is that a lot of times those that are motivated to come are the ones that are coming. For example, we just did the presentation in 8th grade, given the opportunity to take TSI. And when we look at our kids that sign up for TSI, 8th graders take our spots, which is great, but usually they're the ones that want to come. They're probably excited about a new school, but doesn't mean we give up. We keep calling and we keep trying. Thank you for asking. Okay, so the next one that we have is the industry-based certifications. We have over 100 certifications that just tested right after we finalized this PowerPoint. However, you will notice that although we are projecting 90% right now of our students getting a CCMR, 90% of those students, sometimes they are college and career ready, and they also have a certification. But breaking these goals down really hold us accountable. As far as Texas and CCMR, if they just get a point, we're okay as far as our accountability. But that's not enough for Bay City High School. That's not enough for our community. We want to make sure the kids take as many opportunities as they possibly can. We know we have students that are going to college. We know that they're ready to go to college, but if they can get their certification, we want them to get it. Some of the rules that are changing with our certifications is that in the past, we will have students that will get ready to take that certification test. Now they have to be in a level 2 or level 3 course, which is a concern because our students, as you know, when they go to college, they might be in college for a year and they might change their mind and they need a different career. When college students are doing that, high school students definitely want to do that. So a lot of times they come to Bay City High School and they know they want to be a cosmetologist. And after a year, they want to go to the medical field. So that's going to pose a challenge for us because we need to encourage them to stay in that sequence in order to get their level 2, level 3 certificate. But I think Bay City High School can take that challenge anymore. So, but it is something new that is changing this year for us. Any questions about certifications?
Just a comment on that also, an accountability piece that everyone may not be aware of. When you do the industry-based certifications and the student earns the certification, you can qualify for what is referred to as an outcomes bonus. The standard is higher for, let's say, someone attending college. And so in order to get an outcomes bonus for the school district, it's an allotment, extra funds. If you're a dual credit student, you have to enroll in the fall. And that's a separate data point that we do not measure. And it is difficult to track it on the national level for, a school like let's say Notre Dame out of state. So if they meet college readiness and enroll in the college in the fall, not the spring, you won't get it if they enroll in the spring. There's an outcomes bonus. And so I was looking at the summary of finances recently, and we also get credit for industry-based certifications in that they took the course, they did everything we asked of them, they met college readiness, and they got certified. You also get an outcomes bonus for that. And I don't know if anyone in the room, I was trying to get it to refresh, but at the last check of the summary of finance, that $90,000 into the school district and outcomes bonus. We talked about utility of paying for exams, utility of paying for IBCs, paying for SAT, ACT. That money will go towards that, and that is a significant number. I'm very aware of a district twice our size that has about a summary finance of 72,000. So $90,000 is a huge accomplishment that will go back to support students to reimbursement. So I just want to congratulate you on that, because again, that's going to that next standard, that higher standard, and the state has recognized it and put together an allotment to reward that type of performance.
And I'd like to highlight also that the district, when they give this outcome money, it comes right back to our kids as well. So I don't know if you recall, but at the beginning of the school year, I had shared that we started with one welding class and we're really fast into 2, and I have 3, and I don't have enough welding teachers for the need. But also when we have a new welding teacher, there's not a lab and there's not machines for him to operate, but the need is there. So because of that money came back to us, we were able to get the machines that we need to be able to teach the students. So very pleased that we did that support when we needed as well. And I know that you're going to see a huge increase also when we meet next time. Last time I had a meeting at the end of the school year, my concern was how are they going to think we went from 19 to 90. So I'm really excited that we get to see the table report that comes from the state. We are outnumbering and doing better than sometimes the region and other times even the state. So it makes me really proud. And often we have principals from other areas calling and asking, what is that we're doing differently? So I'm just really excited about the staff that I work with.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the last one that I have to report, this one makes me really, really excited. As a former Bay City ISD student myself, I received so much coaching and help from teachers, and that's why I'm here at Bay City High School again, because those teachers help me grow, and this is my passion. It really excites me when students take and be ready to take their dual classes. So as you know, we have a full program that students can get out of Bay City High School. Michael will be one with an associate's degree at the same time you graduate from Bay City High School. This graduation will be the first one that we have 2 students, and after that, you will have a minimum of 15 each year. So the students are able to take their dual classes, and our goal was to improve from 20% to 30%. But specifically, we focus on helping grow our numbers that are not going. We have a lot of students that come out of 8th grade are doing outstanding, taking their TSI, they pass it, and they don't take those classes. They either don't have the money to pay for the classes, or they don't ask for the guidance anymore. Well, that has changed at Bay City High School. So once they take the test, or we notice that they did outstanding on the STAR test, we track them, specifically the subgroups like African American population. So we look at them and see, well, you passed the test, why you don't want to take a dual class? So the counselors and assistant principals, we coach them. So great things, and then some sad things that I want to share with you as well. So some great things is that we're finding students who are able to coach it, like, you're so smart, take this class, you're going to do great. And we have lots of success stories. We're also finding students and parents that will say, stop. We are not taking a dual class. We're going to focus on this goal, and that's okay. We have a strong value of being transparent and offering services to our parents, but we are finding that. But I feel proud of the staff, the counselors, the APs, that we're doing everything we can in our power to offer the resources, and then now it's in their hands to take those services. And hopefully, if they don't take it in freshman year of the 10th grade, they take it 11th or 12th. So that is all that I have to report, and I cannot wait to come back at the end of the semester and show the final results. Thank you.
Thank you. Priscilla, real quick,
Yes.
the growth that we see in the shift that you're seeing at the high school, it's because you all work so hard to make the connection. You call in parents when students are not at their desk on that day and pulling that data. That's making the difference, and that's showing parents that we care about them individually and want to ensure that they're getting the best that they can. So thank you all of your staff for doing what you do for kids in this community, because it is making a difference every single day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Is there enough time in the day for somebody to finish and get their associates and be a certified welder or be a farm tech or an RA or whatever?
That's a great question. Yes, sir, there is. So what happens with our program, for example, our English classes, our students can take English 3 and take college at the same time. Well, at Bay City High School, we are so privileged that we have an English dual teacher that is certified and hired by BCISD and also WCJC. So over the years, because of the support that we have received from the district, we have been able to grow our own teachers, and we have a few that are working on their masters. So we have English, math, economics, government, history, and science, all the 4 classes. So the students are able to get dual credit. So they get their English 1 from WCJC is equivalent to English 3.
Okay.
So at the same time, they get their dual credit, which is a lot harder, and it's difficult for them to accomplish those grades. But that's why we're so proud of them when they do so well. So once they finish, they also have the opportunity to have their CT courses at the same time.
Okay.
Yes,
So some of the CT courses take multiple class blocks. You know, I didn't know if there was enough class periods in the day to be able to do all of it at the same time.
yes, sir. It is possible to do both.
And one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you seeing a big drop in our athletes dropping the dual credits in the AP classes just to stay? Are you seeing that?
No, ma'am.
You know,
So I'm proud also to share that we have an extreme positive relationship with athletics. So when we have our list and we look at our data and see kids that can take those courses, if I can encourage them, I bet a coach can.
okay.
So I go to find them, and then we have that communication about what their abilities are, what we think they need help, and sometimes they're just scared. So once we share with them how we're gonna help them, even when we find out that sometimes they just don't have the money to pay it, WCJC and BCISD work on a partnership, and our tuition dropped to $250. So now it's cheaper, but we also find scholarships and ways to help them pay for those courses. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't have any questions for her. I'm gonna tell you, we do Lone Star governance in 11 districts right now. And I'm regularly using Bay City High School as an example. I was in another district last night at a board meeting, and they had a really nice CCMR report. They showed a lot of gains, which was awesome. But I did have to ask the question, well, how many opportunities do your kids get to test in TSI? Because their dual credit is not really advancing as much as they'd like to see it. And I said, well, you know, there's a district not far from here that's almost every weekend. And the board president's like, looking at it like, well, thank you for asking that. That was really good. You know, last year, the same district I was there, and I was talking to them about, they would only let kids that were juniors and seniors take full credit. And even the 8th graders take TSI? No. And I mentioned, well, we do have a district that recognizes all of the kids who earned the TSI success each board meeting, and they're recognizing the kids. But I think that's fantastic. So we're seeing tremendous results. Congratulations to all the staff. And as too, having these teachers certified to be able to teach these classes, that shows the commitment of your teaching staff. That's just incredible. It really helps because when you got teachers in the school that know the kids and they know the struggles, they're just going to encourage you more than if they were taking distance learning from a college teacher that doesn't know them and is not from them. So that's excellent too. Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is our superintendent constraints. And this month, we are looking at one of them, which is superintendent constraint 2.1. The superintendent shall not allow the ADA to drop below 91%. Remember, we set the baseline based on what your overall ADA was for last year, which was 91%. And then in November, when we pulled the attendance year to date, it was 94%. It has dropped just a little bit when we pulled it for January. But really, it's kind of to be expected with the cold weather that we've had and so forth. So it was 92.43%. So, do you have any questions you'd like to ask the administration about that?
I do have a question. After Estelle said if they pull their list, are other campuses doing that, or is that just something the high school is doing? What is how do we get in touch with families when students are not?
One of the things that right before the Christmas break I visited with principals about was state law states that students must be in class 90% of the time in order to receive credit. And so that's an added measure that we're going to add moving forward. But yes, all campuses have strategies. And if anyone wants to chime in on any specific strategy, all campuses model the best practices with what they can do to address attendance. One of the hugest constraints that we have are the truancy laws. They're virtually non-existent anymore. And so that does, when parents receive that letter, it may be a shock and they may not be pleased by it, but that is state law. If you're not in school 90% of the time, you may not get credit for that, and you may have to do some Saturday schools to make up that time or some after school tutorials. But principals, if anyone would like to comment on anything they do for attendance, even incentives, I know we've got incentives going as well.
So we fully attendance May and register our fully attendance right after our attendance time at 9:30, and they make parent phone calls every single day. We're going to the house. There's particular students that aren't showing up daily. All of a sudden, are going to the house, picking up the students and bringing them to the school. We actually met with the district attorney, maybe his name is Mr. Weber today, and Kelsey Crane, and we had one of the teachers from the junior high. Right now, with kids are not 12 years old, there's hardly anything we can do. So all the kids at all of our campuses, until they turn 12, there are very limited resources we can do in order to file truancy. So we're working hard. We have attendance. I can tell you during December, we sent over 80 kids home in one day with a stomach bug. I mean, it wiped out our campus one day. So we're trying as much as we can to get these kids to school.
We have similar issues with the pre-KK campus. We do have a lot of sickness that comes through, and we have kids that unfortunately show up with 101 fever when they need to be staying home, and we send them home. Sometimes it's a revolving door right away. The thing that we're working on right now is we've tried incentives. It doesn't work because it's not necessarily our kids that are making the choice not to come. It's a parent who's making the choice not to bring their 4 or 5 girls to school. Half days kill us at the primary campus because they don't see the value in getting up and bringing their child to school for 4 hours. And so we talked strongly about that in December. We had a big push. We did raise our attendance on the half day in December by 10% over the half day in November, but it still wasn't good attendance. So, we have to look at things to kind of help counter that. So, but we are
launching this week is just really improving those relationships and putting a teacher incentive where they are not necessarily getting an incentive because their kids have perfect attendance for the week, because it is so hard to do, and we realize that it's not their fault. But as long as they are making parent contacts every day to the ones that are not there, our parapros are gonna be involved by sending just short notes, postcards, something like that, to minimum of 2 kids per class that they serve that are there with perfect attendance. The teachers are taking care of the ones that are not. So really focusing on building the relationships with the parents, because we feel like that's the missing link. We've got to get that so that we can get those kids there and really let the parents know how valuable that time is. They do think, we have one kid that would get picked up about 2 o'clock every day. She was trying to get ahead of the dismissal rush. And so a conference with her and letting her know, your child is missing almost 2 hours of instruction. And here's what's happened in that 2 hours. And so, but also giving her a data point. Here's where your child was, here's where your child should be based on natural progression. We're actually looking at about 2/3 of that because she's missing part of the day. So supporting our parents just with knowledge, empowering them with that, but also relationships. This is kind of where we're at, because we have no team when it comes to attendance.
Ms. Howard, if you would, because the next thing coming up very soon is the community voting on our calendar. And so there's a calendar process, there's a committee that goes into that. But I do think this is an opportunity. I know it's a rough number, but it's an honest number. What would you say your lowest percentage approximately on an early release day was?
No, it's 68% is what we were the Friday before Thanksgiving in November.
So many decisions are tough to make.
We can't staff the school at 68%. Although that's all that showed up, we had some very, very small classrooms that day. But we still have to have all of our teachers and all of our parent staff there. So when I say, that's why I say when we rose our attendance by 10%, we were at 78% in December, and we pushed hard. We were also experiencing a lot of sickness in December. We had the flu hit us 2 days before we went out. And so we were experiencing a wave of flu. So we knew we were going to have a lot out because we sent them home on that Thursday. They were not allowed to come back on Friday. But even despite that, the efforts that we had, we did a winter fest. We had the kids, everybody who was there at 10:10, which is our ABA time, went to the Christmas tree and they got to pick up a book, a wrapped gift. It was a book, and then an ornament off the tree, which was a fidget toy. And so even with the funds that we spent to incentivize that, we came out far ahead with the attendance, the income that we got based on the attendance for the day. But so yes, 68% was our November. I don't know historically what Cherry has looked like, but that was pretty deplorable in my opinion.
Brings the average down.
It does.
One day.
What's the solution there? Not have a half day, they go the whole day, or not at all that day? And then just have another day somewhere else?
So if the data points to half days being the big problem, and it does, we seriously have to consider eliminating the half days, not because we want to or don't want to, because the data is shouting at us.
Yeah, well, 2 half days is a whole day somewhere else. I mean, and it's tough on parents because they don't get to work half a day. They got a full day at work and they got to get their kids on.
Right, and my intent in asking the question is not because it's dropped. My intent is because it's what's best for kids to have them in their seat. So ensure that we're doing everything we can, and it sounds like y'all are doing everything you can to get kids in their seats because it's what's best for them. And we're in the business of educating students and children. And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what's going to move us forward. So thank you for sharing what you've done and what you're continuing to do to move that needle.
And we will change, the campuses are doing a great job. We will change some district approaches in how we divvy up things to focus more on the attendance piece, to focus more on the home business to support the campuses. They have enough to do with their campuses to support the home visit piece, documentation, and working with our local officials, elected officials to expedite any accountability is a big part of it. And teachers can't teach the kids kids if they're not there. And they're doing their part, so we need to get.
So, going back to our agenda, and we failed to mention your last meeting, which was in November. It was November 15th, that was the last regular. And you spent 142 minutes in the meeting. 42 of those were closed session or things didn't count against you, so you wound up with 100 minutes. You spent 62 minutes focused on student outcomes. And our goal is to hit it 50%, right? I mean, 50% or more on student outcomes. So you were at 62% in November. The month before that was 59.9, and the month before that is 59.7. So for a 3-month average, it's 60.5. That's excellent. Yeah, that's really good. It's really showing more focus on the kids, which is what it's all about. All right, so we're going to go on now and move into the board evaluation for this quarter. And so we're going to use the LSG integrity instrument. And just to refresh your mind, I'll keep score over there on the score sheet. Before we leave tonight, I need to approve it and then for everybody to sign it. Once we get consensus on this. And we're going to be looking at each one of these areas. Let me start with the first one. Vision and goals 1. The board has adopted student outcome goals. And remember, we're going to read from left to right, and the points for each one of these different sections is determined by what research says is most important. So you've got 4 areas that have 15 points. And those are the most important. This is one of those 15-point sections. So where do you feel like you land at this time?
Well,
what do you think keeps you from being master's focused?
I think on several of them, there's disagreement that there's broad community ownership of the vision and the outcomes just yet, because there hasn't really been enough time to drive this home meeting after meeting, but we're getting there. Yeah, I can't speak for everybody else. I haven't committed them 100% to memory. I know the data points on a lot of them, but I haven't committed them 100% to memory. So I have to look at the sheet.
Okay. Fair enough. How many do you all agree that it's currently a week's focus on this as well? Okay. Okay, so going on to the next section, which is vision and goals 2, the board has adopted goal progress measures aligned to student outcome goals.
Same.
And is it the same reason?
Correct.
Okay. So does everyone agree that you're at least focus on this one? Vision and goals 2. Okay. And then looking at the next area is vision and goals 3, the board has adopted strengths.
Same.
The ownership's fitness, which I think we're on our way to.
Yeah, you guys have made good progress in that direction. It's just to get it to that point, and then it takes a little time and effort. So y'all are making good progress. Okay, so
I think that we have all committed to the community partnerships, and I think that we all doing already can to do our very best. So I would think that we can move there, but that's just me.
okay, I understand, and you guys are making tremendous progress. When I go to my workshop and I ask questions about this particular area, because it comes up all the time, one of the things that I've been told to ask is, if I was to walk down here to one of your H-E-B store and find somebody that's been in the district for 30 years, would they know what your vision and your goals are? Would they understand what Lone Star governance is and what you're trying to do with Lone Star governance, student scores, and make that your focus? And when you have broad community ownership, that means that most people in the community are going to understand that that's where you're at. And that just takes time and effort to get there. So, are you there? It's just, this is a self-evaluation. I appreciate you mentioning that, Priscilla, and I appreciate the effort you guys have made here at BCISD. See a couple of hits, not quite yet.
Depends on
who you run into, I guess.
Right.
You know, when you say that, it just depends, it's the same way. If you can say that, your attendance, go back to, and parent involvement, it depends on how you tell it. The ones that are going to show, the ones that you leave out in the community. So can you fairly say that's active? Because not everybody, you will never get everybody. But the majority of the ones that are truly concerned, those are the ones that you are going to get. And those, and my chances of running into them at HB, obviously I do nothing because I don't like HB. But, you know, but I'm just saying.
I just use that as
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it just depends on where you're looking and who you're looking for.
Yeah, and it is subjective too, because I mean, broad community ownership.
Yeah.
How do you measure that? Well,
Yes,
it's not a definite- it's not a definite science.
yes.
But you
So
guys,
do you tap us on the end for that? Or you give us credit for it? I don't know. Don't pop me on the head for something I can't.
oh no, you're not getting popped on the head at all.
But,
Remember, what you're trying to get is to 60 points or better, and you guys have been scoring that. It'll land you on the leaderboard.
Oh, I
I'm
see.
pretty sure this time. It's something to shoot for, though. There's other things you can do to continue to grow the broad community ownership. And basically, it's doing a lot of things in the schools and here at the board. And I commend you for that. Do you all agree that you're there yet?
so we have 4.
Or it needs focus, I think, on 3, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably, does everybody agree with that? Need to focus? Okay, so looking at vision and goals. Vision and goals 4 is the board has adopted superintendent constraint progress measures. And so where do you think we land on this one?
Same.
Okay.
I think the question should be, what is it gonna take as a board sitting here at 8 people, or 7, plus Matt, 8, to get to that point, to get to that community ownership? So what do we sitting here at the table think? Okay, when we reach this point, we will have reached a better understanding of the community, knowing what we're trying to do as a school. And so I think it's a conversation of what does this look like to what we're doing. Yes, we present to different organizations, we presented to the schools at the beginning of the school year. What else can be done to ensure that the community is understanding where we as a board are setting our intentions? And we're setting our intentions to have the standard up here. And I think that's where, until we have that conversation to push ourselves and then all agree, yeah, let's take a step forward and each one of us do the thing or whatever it is, then we'll be able to check that box off.
I think it boils down to more outreach. If you showed up at the Rotary group, they can tell you what we're focused on.
Right.
But I think if you ask the person at HED what the school district's focused on, their answer is going to be the swimming pool, car pickup lines, you know, the things that they're experiencing and that is front for them.
Yes.
But if we can get, you know, the front headline of the newspaper say BCISD working towards academic goals, then I think people read it. And if we do parent nights, you know, then I think people start to see what we're doing. But it's just gonna take more outreach. We've done a lot. It's gonna take a lot more to get to bigger and more groups.
Correct.
What kind of a presence do you have on social media with your website or this or on your website?
I don't think we have.
Perhaps what we could do is a video training and have they can click on it, reference it, we can highlight it. We're now doing it. We have a district newsletter for kids, done a great job with the campus newsletter. We now have a district one, and that's a big one that goes out once a month. So we could make that a recurring piece. And there are analytics there too, for us to see how many we're reaching. So, I mean, that could be a measurable, at least how many people we're reaching, but I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there, but it would add greater access.
Well, I think that's the thing, is we need to be able to reach more people in the community. Only so many people are able to come to a Rotary meeting or to the school for a parent night. We're never going to catch all those people, but if we can deliver it in their inbox, we're more likely to catch them, to let them know what we as a school board are doing and what the school board actually does and what we're responsible for.
But kind of to boil down, I think what Priscilla's saying, and I agree with her. There's only a certain number of this community that have skin in the game.
Yes.
So you're in HEB and like 80% of them don't have students in the school district. So like, what's our population? We're trying to get broad community ownership, but we're trying to get broad community ownership of people that have students in the school or will have students in the school.
But to that point, they all pay taxes, and I don't work at SDP, but I know what SDP stands for, what they're about the community, so, you know, you can drill it in, it's gonna take a long time, but.
It's good. I think the newsletter is awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a great first start, but you're gonna miss a huge.
You're gonna, absolutely, you're gonna miss
They're
it.
not gonna get that newsletter.
You gotta get them somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
That's the hard
different streams, not just one focus stream. It's got to be the newspaper, it has to be Facebook, it has to be all the things.
Well, maybe we should have had it at children's Christmas house.
Next year.
What I hear you say, you're volunteering.
But listen,
I've seen the pictures.
Everybody in the newsstand block the road. I mean,
that may work.
That's thinking outside the box.
You guys, this conversation, now, do you have a video team that can do video for you? Because if you don't, we do.
Oh, we also have students. We have students. Yeah, we have students that do it.
Yeah.
Because on an upcoming goal that we haven't covered it yet, is including students in presentation somewhere, I imagine. So that would be
you know,
another opportunity to involve students.
There's a video representing Bay City ISD that's going statewide. Dr. Mark Scott is in that video. He's talking about benefits amongst our governments. That's been shared all over the state. It's still out. And it was very very positive. And so that's something that can also be done even locally. So, and I'll just tell you, we videotaped that right there in our studio every year. And we can do something similar to that right here in the boardroom. We did that at Kennedy, took a video team out. They videotaped the different board members talking about what they're trying to do. So it's powerful. But this is a good conversation. Keep it moving. So, okay, so we were on vision and goals 4, and we decide we were at 4 on this. Okay. All right, so going on. Okay, so going to the next item. This is progress and accountability 1. The board invests at least half of its time in improving student outcomes. I would say you got 15 on this one, right? Definitely. Okay, and then progress and accountability 2. This is the board evaluates, does not interfere with progress toward improving student outcomes. Have you received a report of the average cost of staff time spent on governance using the staff use tracker? Yes. I don't think so. In the transition of secretaries, I think that didn't get done. So I'll send one to Danielle and then she can start putting together the information. It's not a very difficult document to populate, but basically what it does is it estimates the amount of time that the staff spends preparing for and dealing with board meetings. And it gives you a really good idea of what board work is costing the district in pennies. And it is something that's a part of the Lone Star government is to try to control that amount so that more time is spent on kids. And so people used to ask me, well, what do you spend all your time on as a superintendent? I said, just depends on what month it is. Sometimes 5% of my time is with the board, sometimes 95% with the board, depending on what's needed. And so, that's the way it rolls. Okay, so progress and accountability 2, where do you think he's scoring? 2, okay. Let's go to systems and processes. Yeah, it's because
We haven't received the report.
Yeah, we haven't done the report on that.
yeah, so, but it is just 2, it's just, yeah, this is a 5.0 year. It is a little surprising. Okay, systems and processes, the board operates in a way that allows the superintendent to accomplish this.
I think we respect him and trust him enough to allow him to do this job. So if you're looking at just, if you say me, okay.
Do we know these numbers? The average of our college.
Well, I don't think they're 3 hours anymore.
Oh,
I think we're close, right?
probably close.
But I think what keeps us from masters, I don't know, we're just getting the stuff 7 days every time.
Yeah, that's the depth. I'd say a place for growth at times, whether it's a 313 agreement meeting in December 28th or a major contract that comes up. There are times where I do ask the board to be a little more patient, to get all the information and get a decision. Because they need that information, they need it to be accurate. And so there are times when we go purposefully, not by accident, we purposefully go into that 7-day window because we're not ready.
Yeah, and the purpose of having your materials see 7 days ahead of time, so that you can be really well prepared for the meeting. That makes the meeting go quicker. More can be put on the consent agenda, and you just know what you're dealing with when you get here because you had time. Rather than getting it on Friday night, you got all the weekend activities, and then you have no time. So where do you think you landed with the needs focus?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 12. And then we have advocacy and engagement. The board promotes the vision.
Tony, we want to point out that although that's LSG goal, we're 100% compliant with expectations of posting.
Oh, yeah.
We're 100%.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's not an LSG goal.
Right, and you have to have, you would not meet at all, you would not meet focus at all. You have 0 if you just hit that 72-hour window. That's the law. Y'all are always.
Yes.
Yes. But this is an LSG thing that we're trying to do, be 7 days out.
Yes, further notice.
And that is a big jump the first time you go to doing that. Everybody has to be used to it. Okay, so under advocacy and engagement, what do we think?
We discussed about the results being posted in this room because this is where we meet to discuss it. I don't know if it's.
We have.
Yes.
Do we have a poster?
Yeah, I delivered 3
Yeah, 3 big posters. We
posters.
can-
They can be updated, like.
They basically, they're not put together so they're updatable. There's mission, vision, there's your goals, and then there's your constraints. We have them set up like that. There's 3 of them.
So this
Could
says,
we do something that could be updated? Yes.
yeah. Okay, there's 3 then.
So what's that look like?
What we've done is 36-inch posters, poster size, 3 of them framed. So, there'd be a place you'd have to hang them.
It's not how often are we talking about, okay?
Well, whenever we update it.
Whenever we
So we revisit goals once a year.
And you pretty much, that's what you give us, right? Tony? You give that to us already.
I do.
They're just not,
They're just not come. They're here in the building
yeah,
somewhere.
they're just not posted somewhere, but that's all we have.
And if you don't like the look of them, I can also have them redone. We had a graphic designer that did them, they were approved, in concept before, and we got them framed and everything. But if you want to do something different with the look of them, that'd be fun too.
And well, we posted.
And they don't have to be so big. That's been a little bit of a problem for some districts because they're poster size, so it's like 36 by 24, those are huge. And so, you know, we can make them smaller.
It would be nice if we could make it smaller and hang all three of them right there, but that size, I'm.
Yeah, we can work on that. In our next planning meeting, let's talk about it.
Is that okay with everybody? It's a space.
So we had three.
Okay, so then the final area is synergy and teamwork, and the board works collaboratively and with the superintendent to lead toward the vision.
The last point on meat, the last point on meat says that the board leads the completion of Lone Star governance tasks. What do you mean by that?
Leading presentations, like I know you've done, James, before, that's a little sort of exercise.
Okay, so I can agree with that. So, okay. Yeah, no, on that.
So where are we going to do?
Because I think even at that, you said, like James has done it, and I think Jill did the presentation at Roberts on there. That's a black one with the Rotary or Lions Club on it. So I think that's.
So I'm seeing that we had a score of 78. Is that what everybody else got?
That's what I had. I mean, what keeps us off of masters for this class?
I think so. But because we had enough people to present, so we are far past the meet. It's like we are hung up on weeks and we're going to stay meet. But we have completed the workshop. And you're to the adopted board constraints.
Just real quick on that, in moving, it sounds like we're ready to move from meets focus to master's focus. And the first one there had complete Lone Star governance workshop, good to go, right? I agree, all board members adhere to the adopted constraints during the previous 3 months. We went over those. And then I personally want to comment on the last one. Thank you all so much. As a board, I'm tremendously supported to make superintendent decisions. And so I would attest that I agree that no board member has given me operational advice, which is my lane, if you will, have been felt to be extremely supported. And I hope that you all have felt that I apply some adequate communication, even though I don't receive the direction on operational decisions that the superintendent's in charge of. I do try to make you all aware of different things in the newsletter, and we'll talk about that a little bit further down the road. But I don't know how y'all feel. I just want to say I'm tremendously supported on that piece.
So that's a 79.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the average. 60.53. So if I could get everybody to sign this, well, once you approve this, everybody can sign this box right here, and then I can submit that.
Is there a motion to go
Yes.
Motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes 7-0.
All right. So, one of the things that we were going to do this evening is process for superintendent evaluation. Coming up later this month. I plan to come that evening and be present and help with anything I can. The process was in the fall, developing the superintendent evaluation process and form, which you did, and you approved it. Then you're receiving tonight a blank copy of the form, of the evaluation form, to be filled out and then brought to the board president ahead of time, or bring it with you to the next meeting. When you're going to do the evaluation, I believe that's on
February 9th.
February 9th, right? So that's coming up in February.
Tony, before we move on, we want to fill this out without hearing his presentation on how we think he did.
He's doing that tonight.
Oh, you are doing it.
And then we'll take this home and everybody will fill it out and come back to the February 9th meeting.
Awesome. That answers that.
We just.
Yeah, and that way,
Yes.
you've got everything together based on what he thinks are the strengths and the opportunities to grow in the district as it relates to the items you're evaluating. And then, of course, you're going to come up with what you think you would like for him to work on. So at that next meeting, there'll be time for you to meet just without him there. You'll fill out the evaluation together as a group, and then bring him back in and talk to him about what you'd like for him to work on. And then you'll also talk to him about his contract and salary that same night. And then no decisions have to be made that night. That gets made to make sure the board meeting when he comes with his action plan. Basically, that's his plan to react to your evaluation. He'll have maybe, if you point out 3 areas you want to work on, he might have 3 goals. Each of those goals might have between 3 and 10 actions or activities that he's going to do with his leadership team. Because, you know, as that goes, all that stuff flows downhill, right? As the district goes, so goes the superintendent. So that's the way that goes. And so then come back in July, you'll go into closed session and you'll do a mid-year check. He'll run his action plan past you, show you the things that he thinks he's accomplished, talk to you about the things he still has to work on, and then you'll give him feedback at that point as to how you think he's doing. It's not like a formal evaluation. It's an opportunity for you to meet mid-year, talk about what you decided in the regular evaluation. So that's the process for superintendent evaluation. You guys have any questions about that? And everybody's got a copy of the form? All right, good deal. So there was one other thing that we were going to do. Well, we're going to talk about the progress towards broad community ownership. I think we've already had a pretty good discussion on that. So I don't think we really need to go any further. I did have a brief presentation, it's kind of like a skills review that I'd like to do with you. So when we look at the statement up there on the board right now, student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. Who has to change first?
We do.
Exactly. And it all starts with the board owning their own behaviors and the outcomes of the district. And so it's so true that the state of Texas gives you the responsibility to oversee management. That's your job. It's not to be management, it's to oversee management, and particularly the academic achievement of students. Not to be confused with, what color the paint is in the field house, or some other non-essential thing that could be done by others. Right? Overseeing the academic achievement of students, that is your job. So for student outcomes to change, there's several key factors that have to be in place. Key drivers of adult behavior change. Number one is knowledge. You remember that from your training. You got to know what you're doing. Number two is skills. You've got to have skill to be able to have mindset change. If I just illustrate that from the perspective of a junior high math teacher, I used to teach junior high math. I'm done, Rosie, okay? But, I had to have a certain level of math to be able to teach 8th grade math. And I think I barely did, but I did. Because my main area was I was an industrial arts teacher, okay? So gotta have that knowledge. But then you can have all the knowledge in the world. These principals over here, these administrators, they've hired people that they've looked at their resume. It's like, oh my gosh, they never made it. It's all A's. And this one was an engineer. Man, he's gonna make a great math teacher. You go and you put him in the classroom, and it's a massive failure because he doesn't have that second item, the skills. The skills are critical for a teacher to be successful. They can have all that content knowledge they want, but without skill, it's going to fall flat. And here's the most important mindset. Because as a math teacher, if I believe that these kids over here can't learn, and I'm going to just teach to these, my expectation is going to come true. These kids aren't going to learn because they're not going to be given the effort that I'm going to give to these others. So those three things, and mindset is the most important. So remember from our definitions, inputs, outputs, and outcomes. Which one of those three do you own as a board? Outcomes. Well, we'll get there. Yeah, it's the outcomes. Remember, that's what you own. You own the outcomes. The inputs are the strategies, the procedures, the activities that the administration brings. That's why we say the action plan belongs to Doc, right? He's going to take your evaluation and he's going to build an action plan. That's his. And these are the things he's going to do. The inputs he's going to bring to the district to accomplish what you want him to accomplish. The outputs, that's like the scoreboard. So, you know, when coach goes into the locker room at halftime, he looks at the scoreboard. And remember the situation we mentioned before. You're up by 3 touchdowns. You're already in the playoffs. It's the last game before the playoffs. You notice that your quarterback is limping off the field after the first half. Do you think that might change your strategy in the second half? Next week's the playoffs. You're already in. You're up by 3 touchdowns. That's outputs. That's that scoreboard. It's looking at where you're at. And so with the school, these principals, you've already heard what Estella said tonight. She's using outputs all the time to measure the success of the kids and how they're doing. They're using testing along the way. They don't wait till the STAR test to find out how the kids are doing. They know before they take the test how they're doing because they're looking at the scoreboard. That's so critical. And then, of course, outcomes, that's what you own as a board. And so we may remember some other definitions. There's other outcomes and there's student outcomes. The ones that we're concerned about are the student outcomes. The other outcomes that are important are the budget. So I know our business manager's here and he's excessively concerned about the budget, as you are too on the board. But let's face it, what's the budget for? The budget is to produce student outcomes. That's what it's for. And so it's not the main thing we're here for. We're really here for kids and what students know are able to do. So this frame right here really kind of tells it all because it shows that, notice that the brackets are around the board and the superintendent working together. But notice accountability is pushed up from the administration to the board. So you're going to hold that accountability over the district, but you're going to push the authority down to the administration and the teachers to get the work done. And so when you're overseeing management, that's a real careful walk you're doing. You're not telling them what to do. You're telling them, this is where we want to go. Get us there. And then they're going to come up with the inputs to be able to get there. And then they're going to share the outputs with you along the way to see how you're doing as you go along. But remember, these are the things, these are the critical behaviors to improve student outcomes from the board's perspective. Number one, you have got to work collaboratively with the superintendent. And that doesn't mean you're going to always agree. It doesn't mean he's going to ever be perfect, because he's not. But at the end of the day, you guys have to work collaboratively together. And those three things in the middle right there, you have to set the goals, okay? You have to identify the non-negotiables. Those are the constraints. And then you have to monitor progress. And I love the way you're asking questions tonight, because that's really monitoring. That's what monitoring's all about. It's not just hearing reports. It's really peering into those reports and seeing what's going on. How can we improve? So I really appreciate the questions that I've heard tonight. Jill, Priscilla, James, Trent, all of you guys, but Mark have been asking questions. Excellent, that's great. And so really then, student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. What we're seeing in Bay City ISD is constant, steady improvement, growth, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the 7 people at 7 schools. So thank you very much for all your effort. And congratulations on board appreciation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. All right, moving on to our next item of business, executive session. We will convene into closed session. Under personnel matters, if necessary, may be taken into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, resignation, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including contract recommendations for campus and district level, administrators and teachers. We will convene into closed session at 8:05. to open session at 8:48. Is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion to approve employment personnel as presented.
Is there a second to the motion? All right, there's a first and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. All right, let's going into reports. Report A, superintendent. Hello, sir, how are you?
Hello, just fine. So as Tony mentioned earlier, we'll be going through the state of the district report. This is aligned with the evaluation tool. And I will tell you, if you're gonna have that out, it's kind of the midpoint of the evaluation tool. If you look at the evaluation tool at the end of the instrument, it talks about some of those goals that will come together for after the action. So it'll be midpoint. I'm starting with instructional management. And so what I did for all those present, I did send this information out, board looked at as well as the newsletter, and I know there's a lot of slides, so I will not go slide by slide because that would be a very, very long time. And so this, and so I wanted to give you all that advance notice. One of the things you guys shared with me when we were preparing for this portion of the school year was let's align it. And so literally in lining, I didn't want to miss any indicator, and I did a strength and a growth for every single one of them because we can always get better, and we're proud of a lot of the things that we've got going so far. So this first slide on instructional management is mainly to do with the LSG information that we have covered. So I'll jump into instructional management, and I have picked a couple of items I'd like to stress as we go. So on this page for instructional management, I think, and I have shared this in a newsletter, I'm really proud of how the district really coming in has, and LSG was already in place. All the curriculum performance goals in that first bullet there are aligned. And if you remember, I had kind of a visual, and I had all of our goals lined all the way across, everything from legislative mandated goals to CIP, campus improvement plan goals, LSG goals, HB3 goals, and there was an empty space on that document. The empty spaces for superintendent goals that are become, so they will all be aligned. So I think that's definitely a strength. The growth area that I'm excited to talk about, and I have it underlined and hyperlinked in your newsletter, is the development of a curriculum management plan. In my former district, I was in charge of building one of these. The development of a curriculum management plan is outlined in EH Local. You won't find EH Local in our district yet, but EH Local basically outlines the entire curriculum management plan and who is responsible for each piece of it. And so that is something, as a matter of fact, for those of you, I know some of you have your devices, that EH Local, I put in a sample policy to show you what that looks like when it's done. What does this mean for teachers? Long-range goal for a curriculum management plan is teachers don't have to write lesson plans. What you do is you build a framework, and in that framework, you build out what is referred to as a pacing guide, which is aligned with things that we're already doing in this district, which include the teach resource system and the order in which we teach things. The problem or concern that I have for teachers is if I have to go log in here and then log in there for planning purposes, what if we gave a Google Sheet, and that Google Sheet was hyperlinked with all of the curriculum mapping on it? We would refer to those as the tightly held things. Tightly held are non-negotiables. We all need to teach the kids. That's state law. That's nothing new. But then we put in our curriculum, CA curriculum-based assessments in there too. And then below that, we begin to build what we refer to as a loosely held things. What are the loosely held things? The first thing that should be a concern for all teachers, because it's no fun, and I was a teacher for 12 years, is, are they going to dictate what I teach every day? No. The loosely held is allowing the teacher to teach the lessons that work best for the students. And so, however, we would want to collect those and put them at the bottom of that document. Top will be tightly held things, eliminating lesson plans for teachers. The bottom part will be linking in resources so the teacher doesn't have to go look there. This will not be done overnight, as you might imagine. And some of the staff I've talked to, very ambitious. They're like, go, go, go. And it was the same thing in my former district. I think our teaching staff deserves really a quality model. And so we would pilot this beginning at the elementary, because that's where our foundational skills are, and then build it from there. And so from the elementary level, depending on which grades we focus on, I've done this before. And so this is something that is very doable to roll out the tightly held, that top section. And I'm saying it in front of everybody because I want it done next year when we start. That's gonna be a lot of heavy lifting. And, but I think it will save our teachers from a lot of extra clicks on curriculum. And I have received specific feedback from teachers in my survey on the need for curriculum, the need for refined curriculum, the need for curriculum for special education. So in that framework, you also have a special section over here that gives you your GT, gives you your emerging bilingual indicators that you want to hit in your lesson, as well as another special program. So they don't have to go look at it. It's all in one place. And so again, I will be able to show this because I've built it. We'll be able to see it. In a former district, we need to build it here through collaborative efforts with our staff. Under student services, the one that I selected a couple to highlight with you tonight. Strengths, and I keep going back to this on the student services side. And Bay City is one of 13% of districts in Texas that have a police force. And that's a huge commitment for the community, for student services and safety. What I'd like to add in some cases, and in the area of student services management, the data is there. We need to address behavior, and we need to address behavior in different ways. If something is not working, we need to try other things, including some mentoring programs for students who need to learn good citizenship. If we spend 10 minutes with them, we spend 30 minutes and they're disrupting class, let's say, the whole day is already filled with teaching. That's so difficult to manage that behavior and do some intervention programs. So accountability is a big part of discipline management. And so that may translate into the area of some afternoon academies or some Saturday academies, where we bring in, we partner with community, and we begin to look at how we can mentor students to make better choices, but also with a level of accountability to where if you can't do it right in the school setting with all the positive reinforcements that teachers are providing, then there has to be something else, because these teachers have to be able to do their job. And so that means a level of accountability. And that may mean, because from what I'm seeing in the data, it's like attendance. You have your severest cases are not a gigantic population, but they're impacting the entire campus. And they're impacting teachers who are trying to teach and get students to learn. And if we're gonna hold campuses accountable for performance, we need to support them. So the other one that I was going to mention briefly was, I do know that there's a lot of effort put into the RTI program for behavior right there in the middle, in the middle bullet. But I think we need to reevaluate those plans and look to see fidelity. And if fidelity is there or is not there, all decisions have to be based on data. And I mean, that's just the way it is. It's tough to make decisions based on feelings.
RTI.
Response to intervention. And so, sorry about that. In response to intervention, what you typically see in school districts, and again, I would say Bay City is ahead of the curve here. With RTI, you'll usually see it on the academic side. What are we doing to tutor? What are we doing to help kids learn? But behavior is just important. And so that's a great start. There's a great framework. But if the data says certain elements of RTI and the approach to discipline are not working, we've got to try some different things. So while I say it's a strength in that, work has been done that other districts have not done, in a level of training and effort, but we have to evaluate for effectiveness. If we're just keeping doing the same things, and it's ineffective, we'll never get there. Sorry. Staff development and professional growth. I chose to highlight on that page. On that page, I chose to highlight, I do believe that there's a comprehensive district level staff development program. It is robust, it is intense. The area of growth that I would recommend here is that we begin to cater and gear and shape our professional development towards the needs of the campus. So if a campus has a very specific need of, let's say, a specific type of discipline or a specific type of learning, let's say, or let's say training in the area of special education, we should give those campuses greater autonomy to cover the things that they need on campus that are specific to that campus. If we load them up with district mandated training all the time, they never get to work on the things that they need to work on. Another thing I think, as we get close to the calendar, I want you to know I personally advocated for the idea of giving a work day after each 6 weeks to give them the time they need. So you have all this training, but when do you have time to implement? If every professional development day is taken up by a need, we need to get more work time. And so one of the things that we put forth, and I know they're coming out, I've seen some great designs. I met with the teacher this week. They were very pumped up about the whole process. And I looked at one of their calendars that they had. A lot of thought went into it. And that was one of those calendars that had the built-in work days at the end of every 6 weeks to help teachers get their stuff done. Administration management. I chose to highlight the third bullet. Oversees procedures of effective timely compliance with legal obligations, reporting requirements, and policies. The strength there, we really made a conscientious effort this year. As you know, it seems like it has been audit season. We have been checked on everything. And so we really invested in support services for staff in order to get those things done. Elizabeth's not here tonight, but I know it with federal programs, those of you know, there is so much involved with that, with federal programs, and the amount of accountability and tracking that has to happen. I think we have had a tremendous year in that area, and Ms. Rawlins has done a great job of using these support services to keep us compliant. And so that's huge. We don't want any of our staff guessing. We don't want any of our staff having to feel. I was visiting with a vice principal today on campus, and we were talking about tailbacks and types of assessment. I said, listen, we don't want you guessing. If you need the help, you tell us. It was a new administrator, and so I'm like, we can't be that way with our staff, expecting to know stuff when they come in the door as far as that goes. But that was a good conversation, and we do have support services for that. What I would like to do, and I'm committing in front of my staff, is to develop a monthly compliance newsletter. I kind of have that for myself already, but something monthly. The format I sent it to you all in is a SMORE. So if you can envision each month, at the beginning of each month, I would be sending a SMORE of, regardless of what your area is, here are the things that may be coming due. And I say may because some of them slide around a little bit, but at least it'll give us the conversation to make sure we're not missing any of these compliance pieces on administration management. Is there any questions on that one? And I can go back as well. I know Mr. Greencase has some questions. We're going to keep going. Okay. When it comes to Roman numeral 5 on the fiscal facilities and operations, what I chose to highlight with you all there today is the first bullet. Oversees the budget development process that results in recommendations based on the district priorities and available resources. The district, as I went to all the campuses on our second day back, and I talked to them about ESSER. ESSER is something that everybody's going through. Everyone, literally in the nation, is going through. Those federal funds that were pumped into school districts during COVID, those are all expiring over the next 2 years. And so we've got to make some responsible, like everyone else, we've got to make some responsible decisions based on that funding going away. And so some of those strategies that I have visited with and have placed some of that information in newsletters is like a staffing formula. In order to be fair to, let's say, a teacher who has a very large classroom and a teacher who has a very small classroom, we need to put some formulas in place so that we can control for that. And then we can have a formula-based staffing of each campus and at the district level as well. It's all a formula. This formula was developed by 10 school districts. And so it will help us get within our financial means as far as moving forward in planning. And when we talk about things which are critical, we talk about raises and incentives and those things. I think the first step is for us to address this ESSER issue that everyone's dealing with, get that under control, implement staffing formulas. And when I say staffing formulas, I mean, I know we've said this before, I want to say it again. If you're going to impact the ESSER funds, which is a significant amount of money, 80% of our expenditures go through staff. And so that's where we want to look first. And when I visited with the campus, I said, our goal is not to impact students as ESSER goes away. Our goal is to support students, but really take a close look at, for example, many school districts, basically was one of them, invested in learning platforms during COVID so the students could be served. Many of those went from free to being charged, et cetera. There's some free ones as well. Google Classroom is a free one. In my former district, we used Google Classroom. So that's a good example of one of the programs, Schoology, has gone away, and that we love Schoology. Schoology is great. However, it's a bit redundant when we already have a free program. Hopefully COVID is behind us, and we can start to eliminate programs. And so when we talk about programs that don't get used, we have software that allows us to use analytics on how often a program is used. The message there is not, you better use this program. The message is, if you're not using this program, let's use something that you value. Been meeting with principals on a phonics program as part of HB 3, House Bill 3. Those are the things, I want to invest in things that the teachers are going to use. So it's not you got to use it or else. It is, if we're not using it, why are we paying for that thing? If we have a program that will communicate with parents in this way, and we have another program that will do the same thing, why would we pay for both? That will ease the burden on the entire district when it comes to planning for ESSER. And I know that is a big one. So is there any questions or anything I could elaborate on that?
Elaborate on the staffing formulas are obviously going to reduce staffing in some areas. The plan is to do this naturally through attrition as people retire and not, just so we can be clear in public that it's not, hey, remove teachers. It's as teachers retire, we're kind of start moving people around within their own areas just to make things align a lot better.
That's so critical because the misinformation could be we need to cut staff. Specifically speaking, the majority of our elementary campuses are short staffed, so there's no cutting. No, we need to meet, that formula says you need to get there. Yeah. And in our needs assessment, we need to get there, we're not there. We need more staff, specifically at the elementary level, by formula, not by Dr. McKay's idea of what is a good idea. It's by formula, by 10 school districts that really looked at how can we become, I hate to use the word standardized, it's so misused. But it's really nice when we have a formula that we can all look to and say, this is reasonable. And as I told the board, you have complete autonomy, obviously, to change the formula any way you like. We can start with a formula and then say, here at Bay City, we value this. We value this, so we're going to change our program. I've already had principals come to, when we're kind of just talking, basically, they say, well, what if I didn't need this? Can I get that? Yes, that's what we want. Again, it's formula based to get the need where we want it to be. So it's not, here's the formula we won't listen to. But it is, here's the formula. Now we have to work within the formula so that we can remain responsible in our spending. Now, which obviously has been a highlight of the district because of a very, very healthy fund balance. When I visit with campuses, I refer to it as a savings account. I'm very proud that this district over the years has a very good fund balance and savings account. And, just because we have it doesn't mean we should extend it. And so we will work as fast as we can to deal with the ESSER losses while trying to preserve the classroom, number one. And then I think with these formulas, it will be a huge step in that direction. So absolutely, autonomy in adjusting the schedule and ensuring that everybody knows we're well aware that our elementaries are short staffed, our elementaries are teachers. And so I would not want that to be, misinterpreted that it's, we're going to cut everything. That's not it. We need more teachers at the elementary level. And I'll touch on that a little bit in another slide as well, but other questions, I understand that's a big, other things I can.
Go ahead.
Okay, ESSER is not going away, you just don't get that big lump sum of money, right? Because the ESSER is always out there for us to apply.
No, ma'am.
No,
That's
it's going away, it's going away.
There've been different ESSER, one, two.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
They just keep bringing more ESSER in, but then one will expire, and then,
Okay, and the other would be gone.
It's about $3 million per year that ESSER will be cutting from the current.
But there's, maybe I'm confusing with something else, that $3 million may come in, or some form of that come in as a different, input, like it won't be called ESSER anymore, it would be called something else.
We have no indication that ESSER will be replaced in any way.
Okay, okay.
And so that's huge. Yeah, that's huge. And I do hope, we're also, and this is a good, I love the conversation. We know we're coming to a legislative session, and we know that there's a surplus at the state level. So this is federal money that's going away. So we would like to think that given the size of the surplus at the state level, we would ease that. And current legislative session initiatives do not point in that direction. They do not. So essentially, the legislators will have a big decision to make. Do I pump more money into the schools, or do I compress tax rates for the, for the communities, voters, et cetera? And this is the direction they've gone, is compressing the tax rate. As you know, this year we compressed it hugely. And so everyone who's watching the priorities of the legislature, you never know what's going to happen. We're just getting started. But the momentum is to provide compression of the tax rate versus a ton of money into education. And maybe it will come, but I think it would be a huge mistake if we try to, count on it or expect it, because there's nothing on the horizon.
Okay.
For that money. Great question. Thank you.
Some of the software you talked about where we have analytics and data saying that this isn't using, we're already going through that, right?
Yes, sir.
We're cutting some.
We've already cut some.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that will be ongoing, and that's something I can put in the newsletter because that we have made some cuts already. And the Schoology was one of them, and I know that was not a completely popular decision, but again, we go by data, how many people are using it, and we go for cost. It was a COVID initiative, and then we had the backup of Google Classroom, which is free. So yes, my team, who meets me regularly, knows that list of software programs is significant. What we're doing is we're going in and highlighting things that are not used. We're not highlighting things that are heavily used. Another example that I'm trying to think of, I'm calling by after, we're looking at several of those that are servicing. Communication is another part, the Remind app, the Blackboard, yeah. So there's a ton of those out there, right? There's not a ton, but what if we can start bringing some of these things together? Maybe we can't eliminate every single one of them, but maybe we can eliminate 2 of them. Based on that information. So communications is another one we're looking at. We'll have some discussion tonight during deliberations on a potential action item where I could probably provide some insight on where I see an opportunity for that. But yes, that is, I could have that absolutely in your next one.
Got a lot of kids who are learning.
Yeah, those are coming from all different angles.
Let's just be real.
Oh, and so another really gigantic piece that I know with the finance committee, I'm very proud of our finance committee, all of our committees, curriculum, get ready. I just mentioned that local is going to be something we're going to work on. It's going to be a lot of heavy lifting. But through committee, we've been talking about in bullet 1, how are our services going? And I know technology not only looks at service tickets, but I was provided with the time in which something is reported to technology and when it is closed. Now, a lot of that stuff was impressive, and you see the data there. Again, this is from the system. Also, I want to give a shout out to not only technology, everyone's doing a great job with the situation that we're in, but when we think about losing our HVAC system at Cherry Elementary, I think kudos goes out to facilities and transportation there also. We had a power outage where transportation on a dime had to evacuate 2 campuses and still put on a game at the end of the evening. So that was tremendous work. Administrators had people in different places calling parents. And so I think from a logistics standpoint of operations and management, those are a couple of strength areas that I would definitely, I see people, and it's not just to departments, teachers, vice principals, principals, administration. When those things happen to us, we had an evacuation today out of precaution. Turned out not to be as quite the emergency, but to see our staff, again, facilities coming right over, identifying the problem. And you all saw the time which from first notification I gave you guys to the second notification that we're going back to classrooms. So a clear strength. Of course, we can always get better in areas. Definitely, we want to be better. But those are some examples of people really going above and beyond to get things done. So the biggest growth piece that I have here is that we do need long-range strategic plans. And so we need a long-range strategic plan, bullet 1, growth. Long-range strategic plans, let's say for facilities. So when it comes to facilities, we do, and Mr. Savage is way ahead on this. He's a member of PASBO, and he's already been going and organizing the idea of us doing a facilities long-range plan. And in that, doing a facility standards plan. If we have a teacher in this building who gets this piece of furniture or technology, this group should have something. There should be a standard. And that way we're treating everybody equally. And this is something that happens quite often in larger districts. But when you all as a board are making hugely important decisions, when you know a big update is coming years in advance, we can make those plans with our savings account. Instead of spending savings on things that we really don't need, we can build that savings account. And if we need a chiller or we know something's going out of date or out of operation, we can prepare you guys for those big decisions. And so a long-range facilities plan will give us that. Same thing with the long-range technology plan. What do we recognize as a standard for a classroom? Let's define that. And I have seen our team here at the district level. I know that's already in the works, but we want to bring that to you for board approval so that we can all be on the same page. Here's what an elementary classroom looks like. Here's what a secondary classroom looks like. Here's what a CTE classroom, a business classroom should look like. And that way it's well defined, and then we can do budget planning because we know what's coming. We know what we agreed to. And it's not, let's try this or let's try that. We get really, and I'm not saying it's happening in this district, I'm just saying that is something that will help us greatly. And the last one that I have listed there is transportation. And so transportation, we know that our buses will need to be replaced. And so we want a long-range strategic plan to show you when we see those things coming. It's like, remember, all right, so we really want to do this. Yes, we really want to do that. But remember, we've got to buy buses that year. You get the things, savings accounts, your fund balance, those are those one-time expenses. They're not an every year expense. It's that one time, we got to take care of this, and then we're going to build more fund balance. So I definitely see opportunities there for developing our long-range plans. Getting back to personnel management, the first thing I wanted to stress is all the good work under bullet 1, strength. I don't know if you've been onto the recruitment webpage. It is awesome. And with it being awesome, I actually had a survey response that says, well, maybe, and in the survey responses I received, communication is something we need to work on in the district. You can never be that, you can never arrive at communication. You can always do better. And so I got this survey, anonymous, but the teacher had mentioned to me that it would be nice if bilingual teachers got an extra piece of their, of their high need area. And I think, we do on the webpage, we communicate the stipends. There's sign-on bonuses, there's high need area. And I think even though that's on the webpage, when I go out, when I was visiting with campuses and I got back, I told a funny story that when I became superintendent here, I thought I was super special. And I'll tell you why. It's like, they're paying for my healthcare. I called my boss. I was like, they're paying for my healthcare. And so I was so happy. And I went back and Jordan burst my bubble. She said, no, everybody gets that. And so, that is huge. That is huge. And she was really sweet about it. She's like, don't go too far there, everybody. So, no, that was huge. That was definitely huge. And I just want you guys to know those types of commitments from the board, you don't see that everywhere. I assure you, I've never had that level of coverage in my educational career. And that is a raise. When I found out I wasn't paying for basic, coverage, I was like, well, I just got a raise. And so I think the communications piece and getting to these very special things that are going on, we added DOI flexibility to hire teachers first, to hire them before they're fully certified. When I say that, I'm just waiting for my schools. And so that was a huge commitment by the board as a strength. We started sending our principals to job fairs and assistants and future leaders to job fairs. So they're getting to shop for the groceries. And so I'm excited for that. We saw that, we implemented that in the fall. Also, we made a concerted effort for statewide job postings. So if you go on TASA is a free site. That's where everybody goes to look for jobs. And our jobs are going to be there too. And I believe that's a free service. I do want to continue to, under growth, that same first bullet, growth, continue to refine staffing formulas to promote efficiency. And what I mean by that is meeting the needs of the district. Not coming in blind and saying, here's the formula for Bay City, but to say, are there some things we need to tweak, and then get the input and make it something that is germane or that the local school district can use. And I did want to mention, I'll just mention a strength on this, but really I go back to this, the last bullet on the strengths. Largest salary increase in recent history, I think it's ever. At the 5%. That's ever last year. So that was a huge bonus. I mentioned the paid healthcare insurance, paid $15,000. I paid for this at my former district, and I got $10,000. I paid for it myself for $10,000. Here in our district, $15,000 paid by the district. There's $5,000 sign-on incentives. We recently, so when we went to shop for teachers and we want to hire more teachers, federal programs, HR, all work close together, recruiting. How can we get an incentive? We have college students who said, I can't get out of my lease. I want to come to Bay City. So we started to work out plans to where we can use federal funds, not local money. That's another big thing. Sometimes we'll be spending money, we're like, wait a minute, I thought there was a shortage. Well, okay, which bucket is he? And so if you're talking about the federal programs, that is a different bucket, kind of a different type of fund, but it's always been there. But when some of the most difficult money to spend, believe it or not, is federal money because there's so much red tape. And so I did sing the praises of Elizabeth Rawlings earlier, and she worked the magic and confirmed through the support services I mentioned earlier, support services, that we can offer that relocation incentive as well. And so I think the staff has really turned over a lot of stones trying to really recruit well. I thought that one was very innovative in that we literally offered a college student that we would pay them to get out of their lease because they graduated in December so that we could get them here and alleviate some of the large classrooms in the elementary levels. Board relations, this is the one in the evaluation process. I really look forward to hearing from you all. I'm excited about, and I'm hoping to do a good job with the weekly newsletters and get you guys some great information, pertinent information. You may come back and say, right, look, I love what you're doing here, but I really need this. Please know that I want to adjust the newsletter to your needs. Using the text messages in the fashion in which I use them in emergencies. Phone calls, individual meetings as requested. I really, that's what I look forward to also. I really enjoy when we can just talk a little bit. And, there's parameters with that, with when we have a forum and when we don't. But I do want to be held accountable, and I do thank you all for the questions that you give me, probing questions that are most appropriate and you deserve answers to. So I really do enjoy that part and want to look more at us spending more time on y'all's schedule, whether it's a phone call or a meeting or whatever we need to do as individuals as well. Any feedback, and I know the whole process, you'll have time to go home with this, you probably have a ton of feedback, but any comments or questions I can cover on this? And I love the newsletter, but I added a note that I really want to look at multiple ways besides the newsletter to communicate with you guys too. I hope you find it beneficial, but I'll definitely look for new avenues to send you updated information. The next one is also on board relations. I chose to highlight the first bullet, recommends appropriate supporting materials on board policies and matters for board decisions. I cannot, and I hope you guys, it's so much extra work for you. It is, but the work we've done in finance committee, the work we're doing in facilities committee, the work we're going to have in curriculum committee coming up, I really like the opportunity to meet with you all without a forum, with 3 of you to say, listen, this is coming in a board meeting. Please, ask me the questions. What do you need for me to know so that you guys can have the best answer in the meeting possible? So I know that has been extra work for you all, and I know in the curriculum area there's more coming, but I really think that's a strength. I've enjoyed those meetings very much. I've enjoyed the dialogue, the questions, and appreciate the support of my staff that sits in those meetings. It's very helpful. And to grow and develop, I have several there that I wanted to highlight, but just continue to work on that cultivate that positive culture, building relationships. We've talked about together going to conference, finishing each other's sentences when we speak. And so that's what I like, to where we are just so comfortable with each other, open, honest conversations, critical conversations, whatever it is. I feel very comfortable in that, but I want to continue to cultivate those. And we talked about that in LSG, looking for more opportunities for us to do stuff together. And credit to Danielle for working on, we now have that agenda piece to where if we want to go to, like tonight, we went to the basketball game, various events, she has cleared it to where we can get the verbiage, we put that in there. We don't have to call the order. We don't have to shut down the meeting. Everyone knows we're going to be together at this event. It allows us more flexibility to be together than to wonder how laborious it's going to be. What is it going to take for us to be at the same place? And so thank you, Danielle, for working with legal on that and getting us another avenue to be together without it being.
Funny, I thought we had a board meeting on Thursday and I realized we just posted that we were going to be at the chamber banquet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are going to keep coming now.
I was like, wait, I want to be somewhere.
Yeah. And of course, some of those too. You guys go to so many events. Just because we post it, that's just in case we have a forum, because there's so many events across the district that y'all, you have families, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just a method that if we're going to have more community relations. I chose to highlight the first one, direct proactive program, internal, external communication. I think first of all, our social media accounts that are out there, the information is absolutely tremendous. And on Victoria's links tonight, she was covering tonight with your games, with your et cetera, et cetera. The campus newsletter is tremendous. I hope you guys are enjoying those. Tremendous student recognition going on with those. Very impressive. I noticed that it's a regular thing going on, and I did contact the high school because I noticed you guys added another one with the MVB. I love that. Most Valuable Black Hat. Celebrating people who are great citizens, and we had that on with a positive behavior incentives that we had. Lady Roberts, he said, there's so many good recognition programs across the campus. That is across the district. It's very impressive. In an area of growth, we've been talking about this, about getting the message out. And we talked about it today at LSG. And, I would like to look for us to, and I've mentioned this before, and Lee was a big part of framing this out. She's already developed the PowerPoint for it. That's developing the BCISD ambassador group focused on learning about the district. And when I say that, there's so much, if there's a social media post, we literally can't comment on it, we can't, you know, we're so limited in how we communicate. I would like for us to start, we have done it with clergy, you know, we have done it with Rotary, we've done it with Lions, but really, I think to even bring staff in more as part of that. I was visiting with the superintendent from Central Texas, and he was saying, I love the idea of an ambassador program for community members to come in and learn, and we've been doing that. But he highly recommended that we invite staff also, because when I'm visiting with staff and I say, you know, ESSER's going away, well, I could explain more to a group of staff members, community members, what that looks like. Where, you know, and it would just help send this message as we were talking about earlier, because they're not easy decisions by any stretch of the imagination. But I feel that we could grow in that area to invite people to meetings where we explain it and say, we're gonna answer questions, we're gonna meet here, we're gonna put a topic up there like school finance or special education or district policy, and we can really begin to inform our public, not only and our staff, not only about LSU goals, but about how school districts work. Because sometimes the most frustrating thing is, why do we do it this way? Why do we do it that way? It's like, you literally don't have the time to go everywhere and say, here's why we do it this way because of this constraint. Here's why we can't do it. And so I think the ambassador program was a great idea that we definitely need to move forward with. I also had a piece in here, and all these are hyperlinked for you on the document I sent you. And really, I just looked at that last one because the first one we just covered, won't put us through that again. The second one, Mr. Townsend will be presenting soon, which is going to be amazing. And then we talked about results-driven accountability several times, including my interview for the job. But district accountability, the last one, just the academic growth and relative performance that we show. And I've said this before, there's so many excuses to be made. BCISD has 80% of its students are economically disadvantaged. Yet this staff doesn't make an excuse. 88 on the overall rating for academics, 2 points away from an A. Look at that data, look at how many districts with the number of impoverished students that we have. You know, we've heard about Saturday Academy, we've heard about college readiness. For some reason, BCISD is not looking for excuses. They're having success with what traditionally, if you read the literature, is very difficult to overcome. That's poverty. That's what we want. We want to overcome poverty. But to have an 88 overall accountability, that's impressive with a economically disadvantaged population of 80%. Area of growth, I just went straight from the report card. The only areas of district that showed below a B was closing the gaps. And as you know, in our LSG meetings, we're talking about that all the time, closing the gaps amongst our subpopulation. And I think we're doing a great job of addressing that. But again, that's straight from the report card. It was the only area that was below a B for the district. And so that was an area. And so that's what I had for you this evening. And again, for those of you in the audience, I sent the entire presentation with hyperlinks. I know that was a lot of reading, but I look forward to the process, and you've got some time to spend with that. The evaluation tool, of course, is there with you, and we'll go from there. Anything I can clear up or address before I end this portion?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Go back to 8. Okay, right there, go back. Said that you work with other entities and improve your organization. And one is the growth, to explore more great things to be done, and talk about CPE, and JJAP 12.
Okay, so great question. So when I got in district, I came to find that we do not in our county have a JJAP. Yeah, we used to have it. Yeah. And so I was at a community event, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but some of the people who make that happen have, I really don't want to put them on the spot. They just got it out. But they have committed to me that that is something they want to work on, and that we need in this district to have that option for students. You don't want to expel students to the street. So the term expulsion, we always think of expulsion, you're kicked out of school. But really to best serve students who are in incredibly difficult situations where something has happened, you should not expel them to the street, you should expel them to JJAP. If it is an expellable offense, it's funded by the state. So in other words, you don't put kids there for what we refer to as a code 21, which means discretionary. That's not for this stuff. That's for major stuff, which hopefully we don't have to deal with. But yes, in a comprehensive district and county, that is something that absolutely should be in place to support the behavior issues that we could encounter without expelling people to the street. So I have had that conversation. Chief and I have had that conversation. Chief and I have been visiting with stakeholders in the community. We definitely feel that one has traction. Did you mention another one besides the JJ?
It was, I just wanted to be able to work
Okay.
on that JJAP. Is that's going to be a conversation with both soon?
Oh, yes. And so I can give you an update. So the conversations that started on JJ, I feel really good about that traction and keeping y'all up to date on how we might do that. My understanding, one of the things that surprised me about when JJ was in place, it kind of, for whatever reason, it was housed in bad way. And that's nothing against anybody. I'm just saying if we're the biggest district that may have students involved, it should be here. And I would advocate for that. For the behavior unit, what I'm talking about is some of these behaviors that teachers are dealing with in the classroom that are severe, persistent, and require. So my experience with special education is this. If a teacher with fidelities trying these accommodations for that student, and they're not working, and every IEP, that's not working, that's not working, that's not working. At some point, we have to ask ourselves, is that the best placement for the student? How do you know if it's the best placement for the student? Well, how are they doing? So it's not an opinion thing. And so with what I mean by behavior unit, in some cases, you'll have students who are emotionally disturbed, and very few districts will have an ED unit per se, or maybe one for autism, those types of things. I would not, I'll be clear on this. I know if I mention the term, the partnerships we had in special education in the past, the co-op, that was not beneficial to this district. However, the data shows that with behavior being such an issue, we may need to host one of these. And I will be visiting with districts in the county, what we would host, but so that it would be more affordable, it would be a unit. And so that more people could benefit from it, we get more funding from it, and we can support the behavior in our classrooms that are I have to say, crying that none of the accommodations are working. And we currently don't have that placement to where we could place them in an environment to where they're safe, their peers are safe, and smaller teachers are safe, smaller classrooms. And so I know that may come across as a very aggressive approach, but I think given our data on behavior and discipline, these are some of the things that we need to have in place to support our classrooms, because some behaviors, they're not all behavior. Some are so intense and severe, they require a special setting, and it's not in a setting where we're having to remove all students from a classroom because one student is really struggling. We want to support that student, and through a unit or not a co-op, but.
And then we've had the units in this session. One is at house that Jerry specifically here for elementary. And we've had, and that's the neat thing about education, we've been in it long enough, you just see it recycle itself. So we're coming back to that. But my question is that I would like to have this conversation sooner rather than later, because it's something that should be at the top of every school district, because discipline right now is so out of control. And if we don't get a handle on it, you talked about adult behavior is changing. We have to change that behavior of those students, because right now we cannot do with those behaviors. We spend more time correcting and dealing with behavioral issues than we do with teaching. So we need to have something in place. And especially, and I don't know how we are going to handle this when it comes to especially pre-K, kinder age children? Because those behaviors that I know that I am seeing, I know that they're across the state of Texas with that age group. But our hands are tied with those little ones. But, we're going to have to do something to address those needs.
And where we are on that right now, I have an update on that. And so I know Rose is here, it's coming from the junior high. You guys did a site visit to a neighboring district. The closest district that we have that has that unit is over in Edna. And so they went and looked at the unit, was impressed by it. I don't know if you want to say anything specific about what you saw there, but I'm glad you guys took the time to go look.
It would be something that I know it would definitely help our students. They would be able to receive the instruction that they need at the level that they need in an environment that is, it's good for them, that they can be very successful and they can get all the support that they need for them, which at the junior high right now, I don't have that. So in looking at it, I went with Ms. Garcia and Ms. Hildebrand, and we all thought the same thing about it and thought about how can we replicate that here in the district for us. And it looks like something, I mean, just from what we were able to see is like, why can't we not do this? Because I have a student there, but I know there are multiple students that would benefit from this type of setting that is more than what we're able to offer there. And they truly will be successful there.
What is the difference? How is it different than the ISS where they have to do schoolwork, or different than DAP where they have a classroom instructor, or how is it different as a behavioral unit?
What I saw there, they basically, they're K through 8. She's working on doing the high school, getting the approval for high school. She's approved by TEA. So there's one teacher and about 3 paras. So, and they have about 8 students. So it's really that small group that really almost individualized instruction. And so they have different, they do have the instructional piece, but they also have other centers or other, like with the counseling piece, if they need that. Other things that help benefit them, without going too detailed about it, that services that they need, that they are provided there in a much smaller setting. If there's an instance, say, if a student needs some, and they need quiet time, they have a section set up for that. But they have this, the way that the room is designed, they can change it when needed. They have where they go outside, that it benefits them, that it keeps them safe, but also allowing them to experience everything they would at a regular campus. But having that support. The paras there that were handpicked to be at this facility with this person that was here who has special ed experience, like 12 years as a director. And I can't say too much, I mean, I can't say enough about it.
Yeah.
It was, we left there thinking this person that we have, that we're thinking about this, is going to do so well here.
Is it a separate facility? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's actually private, but it's approved by TEA.
Okay.
And it's in Edna. And it's been about just over, or just this year is when she's really started going fit. And she has like literally, I think, going up to about 8 students now. And I know the student that we have loves it.
Yeah, it correct me, I've been not keeping up with it. But I think it's also one in Missouri County. I want to say, in the 2 high schools, I won't say maybe the whole district uses it, but it's one in the Jackson, Mississippi, and I think it was called Missouri County something. But it was housed, and it was successful. The one that we had here was here on campus. I'm not so sure with my small ones, or you're talking junior high, you're talking stellar, you know. I don't deal with that, so my reality is the small ones. I don't know if having a separate facility would be the answer for those. I'm not sure that if we concentrate, if we don't focus in on the behaviors, that should be the focus when you're talking about a behavior unit. We have to correct those behaviors. If you don't change those behaviors, you're not going to have success anywhere. No, I mean, not anywhere. So when we are having that conversation, I'm hoping that we will have that kind of, we need to focus on that behavior. Changing that behavior, we have to change the behavior. If I can change the behavior, then I can teach it. But if I cannot change the behavior, I can't. So whatever unit that we are talking about, and if it's the same unit that I'm thinking that's in Lake Jackson or Missouri County, they focus strictly on behavior. Academics become secondary because they have to change. If you don't, they have a facility right there in Lake Jackson that will take you if those behaviors are not changed. And I am going to ask about it and see if it's still in place, but I know it was in Missouri County because I had a friend that worked there. So Edna, I think we saw Edna when we were thinking about setting up a behavior unit, and we did not go with that setup or because we were targeting elementary and we wanted a house on campus. And it was a program that I did set up over at here that I think I see one teacher with, that I would say that was pretty successful because we focused only on behavior. And it was a reward system where they had to work their way out of that to even be mainstream back into the regular classroom. So I would like to have a conversation with whatever committee is putting that together. And I would like to see it. Like I say, I know we need something. I'm not sure JJAUP is the answer. And you're gonna have to really do some really good song for that because I saw the other JJAUP that we had. I knew what was going on and it wasn't a very good place for our kids or place for any child that was going to be placed there.
I agree completely. It has to be. And the other thing to stress here is that the JJ is only used as the only.
Well, it wasn't used like that here.
No, what I'm saying is, right now, the only thing we can do is send them to the street, and that's it. And so JJ would be at least, let's try to, and we're not doing that by ourselves. I mean, that's not happening. But in the event it does, we need to be prepared so that we're not expelled to the street, and they're still getting diploma, getting GED, whatever it is that would very much in GED if we give it the diploma. But that would be the purpose of a mandatory placement to JJ, not anything we would like to do. And then, yes, I think evaluation of that program, how's it going, what are we providing? And of course, the bigger the program you build, the more expensive it is. You know, we just talked about the ED, emotionally disturbed and behavior unit. The way you make that affordable is what we're already doing with our over 18 population, is we have folks outside the district coming to our unit and receiving services. It makes it more affordable. And so I think that's going to be our ticket to the behavior unit to make it work, is to partner. And then with JJ, you're right. JJ, we have to evaluate and we have to design. And so Danielle, we'll make that note. We'll do those two items with the curriculum. I mean, you're on curriculum committee, right? We'll do it for that committee.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Mack. Appreciate all of the information and your work in putting that presentation together. All right, items of business, possible action to approve software and hosting several services agreement with Skyward, proposal number 23-0040KN. Is there a motion to get? Are you presenting on that?
Okay.
Make a motion to discuss it.
We do need to make a motion.
In order to have discussion.
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion that we approve Skyward.
Is there?
You got it. Oh, you got it.
Well, just make a motion.
Get a motion in a second, we discuss it.
Yeah.
I move to delegate authority of the superintendent to negotiate and take all action necessary to approve and execute satisfactory software hosting services with Skyward at his discretion.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? All right, we have a first and a second. Let's open it up for conversation about Skyward.
It's easy for me. If I can work it, everybody can work it.
You have experience.
Yes, the school district that I'm in now, we personally use it, and I think that's the only system that I've ever used that was really user-friendly. And everything is there. Everything that you need is in one place, yes.
And that's what in the
Okay,
presentation.
He said that was good.
I'm sorry, no, he's
No,
presenting
no,
on his
no.
side.
I was just turning the computer back on.
Yeah, everything that Dr. Mack said in the finance committee was the same that he was talking about with, doing the lesson planning and that development of that plan is, everything will be in one place. We have, teachers won't have to go here and here and here and here and here, and administrators won't have to do the same, thing, all in one application to be able to streamline things, make it easier for everybody, make it easier for parents, for students, for staff, from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top.
Yeah, we had a great discussion, they walked through that. And, subcommittees where they were meeting with the teachers, trying to get involvement, trying to get buy-in, talk about a roadmap of implementation, all the things. So I felt very good about it. I think it's a great move.
Support is a big piece also, so if I, a few items on support. So support, yes, they have the traditional online modules, but not everybody learns that way. So in addition to that, as we partner with Region 3 right now, I would move to, and that would be something super, it wouldn't be a also, we work with Region 10, who is a Skyward specialist, so that teachers can receive specific help from a person. In addition to that, we did meet with a neighboring school district who's recommended that Lamar Consolidated. It's a great group that will come out and also train. And the big difference there is you're being trained by people who use it, practitioners, not salespeople, and not, you know, I know that's where you get your support from traditionally. So there's those three areas that we're looking to do. And there's never a great time to migrate, but the sooner the better. And if we can move, then we can get almost, I think by February, we will have access to the Skyward training materials and their sandbox on how, and then inviting teachers in to say, listen, you know, how about we have, you know, punch and cookies after school, it's voluntary if you want to come be introduced and play a little bit. And then we ease into it, into more structured training to where, no, we need you here now because, but people can become more comfortable with it. They have an amazing, and I will have anybody come back and talk. They have an amazing training that they do in the fall, where it's called TISO, and all the Texas users come together and share ideas about Skyward. And in our conference, I think Mr. Townsend was in that, maybe Jordan, that was also recommended as a highly valuable conference. And so TISO is a huge conference, and it's a huge perk. We talk about building morale. That is they treat you amazingly off the charts. It's one of the funnest conferences to go to. So I think it would also build that morale to say, and we're going to send you off to this, let's say maybe a teacher who's the designee for grade book. All right, this is a future leader. This is somebody we can have really accomplish, we can support them, we can have them do PB, and you know, to where they're a leader. And so I can go on, but I really feel the support services are there.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments, any clarification before we take a vote on delegating Dr. Mack to be able to move forward with Skyward? All right, here you go.
Is this a 3-year contract that you sign with them?
Yes, that would be it.
So like every 3 years from now, if you go, come to renew it.
Yeah. And I don't know, Rick, did you want to comment on anything that you may think the board needs to know? I know you were working through the certain pieces of it.
I'm all for it. The good news is that the cost is spread out over really, it's a small amount this year that we're in right now. And then by the end of 2026, we'll finish total implementation and also total payment. So
they spread it out for us.
They spread it out for us, so it won't be a big.
We're implementing phases, so they're spread.
They're spreading it out.
Yeah, so that's right.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
This is like something else.
It's
Or something else.
Assembly. And where this came from, Mark, this discussion was first superintendent's meeting I went in Region 3, they announced that they were going to be looking for a new data management system. So we immediately launched into exploration because the region was exploring, we wanted to do it at the same time. Skyward is a system that I also have experience with and found it to be just great to use, teacher friendly, very user friendly. So I mentioned RTI earlier. RTI, it has my former district, we paid for that module. This comes with what we're purchasing. The RTI, response to intervention. What that looks like for a teacher, if you're going to do a response to intervention, I got to go pull this program up and fill out my paperwork over here for a response to intervention follow-up. This will be in the same system. The grades are there, the attendance there, and the report is there. And we did that in my former district. We used it, introduced it as a pilot. I said, you don't have to use it. Who wants to try it? Year 2, everyone was using it. And so there's a utility in meeting that where there's programs we don't need. Another one is the communications piece I mentioned earlier. There's Sky Alerts, where you can message parents, teachers get message parents. So the thing is, we don't want parents doing 100 different things. So if you use the Skyward Family Portal, Skyward Family Access, the grades are there, the attendance is there. If the teacher gave a spelling test or has one coming up on Friday, that is there. And then any other messages you want to use that as your messaging system. And so I think it also has utility in eliminating some, maybe not all. We need to be careful with that. But there's definitely some communications pieces that we have people using too many. And we need to cut that.
So this end up being the cheaper option.
It's almost cost neutral when you swap it out with a sender, but I'll take that back and say absolutely not, because you're not, with a sender, you're not getting the RTI module, and you're spending on the communication. So I said, yeah, right out of the box, I said, it'd be hard for it.
Yeah. So that was nice.
It's very cost neutral on face value when you see the services that it provides. And also, it was said earlier, calculating, and this was an LSG, calculating the amount of time it takes to generate a report currently. I mean, I can probably have some people tear up on that. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. We shouldn't have our staff working that hard to create. So if I have an attendance report, and I know there's people who could back me up on that, Lisa, how many tracks do you have to run a report? How many different tracks do you have to include?
I have 4, but they all have to run individually. So, and then I have to take the data and put it together separately. I can't run them all together.
So she has 4 tracks. She has to put it together herself. This is the principle we're paying in instructional leader. So what Skyward to do with that exact report is it will send it to her email already made. If she wants it every Monday, if she wants it Monday through Friday, she will not log into the Skyward system. Skyward will send it to her email for as long as she wants. And yet right now, I think you would agree it's quite a bit of a wrestling match.
Very taxing.
And we know attendance is critical, and it's so hard. The follow-up, like Joe, you mentioned that is critical, but we got to make it easier. And these are things I had experience in automate all of it. And those of you who are on the committee know that it was the only program that matches up with On Data Suite, which is another program we already paid for. But it interfaces, right? It was the only one, and they love telling us that. They said, yeah, we do. The other program does not interface. So that's man hours for technology to where we can sync the data to go into some of our other platforms. It's just more modern, and it speaks better to other programs.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, moving on to the next item of business. Hello, sir. How are you this evening?
Yeah.
Doing great.
So when we presented the district improvement plan and campus improvement plan, we talked about the school framework of diagnostics that was used for the needs assessment last year, and how all of those needs filtered into the goals for campus improvement plan and district improvement plan. Part of that effective schools framework was a grant, and part of the requirement was for the campuses to develop a targeted improvement plan. And we work closely with Region 3. They have coaches that come out, and part of the process in that targeted improvement plan is for the campuses to identify areas of growth through that needs assessment, and that they're going to focus on. And in your board book, you've got all of their improvement plans and then the data that they're tracking. I made a little cheat sheet, okay? And so I just wanted to go over that with you, okay? If you look at the focus area 1 in blue and the focus area 2 in green, the campuses are required to find 2 focus areas that they wanted to focus on for the school year. And so all of the campuses except basic junior high for focus area 1 chose to focus on effective classroom routines and instructional strategies. And then Bay City Junior High wanted to focus on their first one over to the right, 1.1, developing campus instructional leaders with clear roles and responsibilities. And then for focus area 2 below in the green, all of the campuses chose to focus on data-driven instruction. So Region 3 TIL coaches, Texas Instructional Leadership, have been coming out and working with the campuses. There are 2 activities that both of the campuses have been engaging in to address their individual needs. And those 2 are in that box. One of them is observation and feedback, and the other one is lesson alignment and formative assessment. So the observation and feedback helps the administrators understand the framework to be able to, what does good instruction look like, and to have those coaching sessions and follow-ups with the teachers for that observation and feedback. And then the other piece is the lesson alignment and formative assessment. The coaches have been working with PLC groups, the teachers throughout the year, and the principals to work on developing effective lesson plans that are aligned with the TEKS, and then also to transfer that into the formative assessments, testing, based on what they've been teaching along the way, so that all of that lines up and that it's effective, all lined up to the TEKS. So they've been working through that all year. And then the other piece that we have yet to get to, but we will, beginning next year, is the data-driven instruction. So they'll finish out the year focusing on observation and feedback, and then also the LAFA, which is the lesson alignment formative assessment. We've already set up days for Region 3 to come in and train administrators and teachers. We'll provide stipends for the teachers during the summer on data-driven instruction. Like I said, this is funded through the ESF grant. That grant is set to expire at the end of September. So we strategically put that training as fast as we could and book them in the summer, so that then we have the training and then we can start implementation and they can have that support on campus for August and September before that funding runs out. The campus principals, they maintain their TIP plan, and there are submissions that happen to TEA throughout the year. And Region 3 comes in at the time of those TIP plans and works with the principals to look at their goals and track their progress, update their TIP plan before their submission. The whole idea is with these exercises to be able to meet what those campus goals are for student performance. In the process of the last submission, the coach said, you guys presented this to the board, right? No, we haven't. So that's what we're doing right now. It is much like the CIP and the DIP, those improvement plans, they're living documents. The principals are maintaining these all the time. They change based on where they're at, and they'll continue to update them and submit them throughout the year at final submission with this whole grant process.
So I do have a question.
Yes.
When I was reviewing all of the information and all the charts and things, the one thing that became very apparent and a little bit glaring to me was the student data for one of our campuses and the testing and the assessments for cycle 1. The formative goal versus the actual results. So does that play into this? How does that play into this? That data, the formative goal was much, the actual results on this campus were much lower than the goal that was set. So where does that play into how this is written, how this is worked up? what is the student data that I'm looking at? How do we ensure that the gap is closing? Because at that point, I mean, and it may have been testing, I'm not sure, but across the board, a lot of these dropped. And so I just I don't understand what the student data report portion is and how that loops back to what the plan is. And I know you said we're not to the assessment part yet, you're still working on the first portion. So is this coming, and what is the?
So the goals are, the campuses set their own goals on what their student performance is going to be. And as you go through that process, and you're working on these skills with the lesson plans, all of that, the student data is going to drive what areas of improvement need to take place, and whether or not what you're working on is actually being effective.
Okay. To me, looking at this, it doesn't look like what's happening is very effective. And so it's red flag saying, what else is happening? How does this translate to getting our kids where they need to be for the next thing?
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does.
And so that was my question of, this is evaluated, this is obviously there's a cycle 1, there's a cycle 2, and then there's the accountability goal in it as well. So I know this is, I guess cycle 1 is first semester is what I'm.
Well, the second one was the very beginning.
Yeah, can I say something to
Yes.
that? So this poor Mr. Townsend was thrown into this, and we are
Yeah,
so
sorry.
appreciative that he took it and he's been awesome. But also, if you think back to what our board goals were last year, some of the campuses, we had CBAs and we had STAR, and we weren't talking, and it wasn't correlation.
Right.
If I'm thinking the campus that you're talking about specifically right now, that's kind of what happened last year as well. We started off with saying, we're gonna track CBAs, well, CBAs are not, you can't track the two because you're looking at 2 different units and all that. So it could be that, but what he also, I mean, the important thing is none of us are a targeted improvement plan. He did this to get extra funding and to support us. So this was not required by the region or the state at all. We just did it because, I know my campus got like $98,000 that we've been able to use as resources. We're buying a new phonics program with it, phonemic awareness, but the data piece is wonky because kind of the way that we set it up when we first started, that some were using CBAs and some were using STAR data, so it did not merge correctly.
Okay.
It was kind of a nightmare, kind of like last year
Right.
when we did the goals, and so that's why we changed everything this year.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn.
Well, I mean, it was a big discussion.
Like there's some on here that the goal is 45 and the actual result is 18. Ooh, what happened?
Right.
Like where did the mishap happen?
And it could have been just 2 different CBAs. And so one of the CBAs at the beginning of the year, which makes sense, they did do really good because a lot of it is review. And then the end could be one of the ending CBAs where it might have got much difficult. And so it wasn't correlated. And so we did change a lot of things since then.
Thank you. Any other questions on?
Are we thinking ahead on this lack of sessions where we're making all these lesson plans and everything? Are we knowing that we're going to be trying to go to this new setup to where there's the close and the lesser or whatever, all this cross platform where everybody has the same thing? Are we going towards that already with this? Or are we going to have to do all this over again? Or we go to that?
So I think the discussion here is the comprehensive curriculum management plan with the teacher resource system, with the timeline. The expectation at the district level, my understanding has always been that we use resources. And so I think the question is, how does this interact with the curriculum work through the teacher resources?
Are you asking if they make all these lesson plans and are we saying them, we're going to do it all over again later? Yeah. Okay. Principals.
Can I speak to that? We just had a session today, but the LAFA training is more about how to align your objectives, how to look at fatigue, break it down, and then write an appropriate objective, the goals from it, the formative assessment, the exit ticket, all of the pieces that go there. It's not so much yet the lesson plan is coming, but lesson plans have got to change with your groups every year. You never have a set of lesson plans that you could pull out, and I would hope that no teacher just brings out her last year's lesson plans. There might be a guideline for them, but the LAFA process is really about the process of learning how to unpack the TEAC and how to write effective lesson plans for your students that you have at this time. Our session today, we had Lauren Alonzo from Reaching Free was here, and our teachers are very vulnerable whenever they go to those sessions with her, which I love. But she was very pointed when she talked to them about what is your formative assessment look like? Okay, well, I told her, she said, well, how do you track that? What do you do with that? What's your next step? And so it's about thinking through that process to how to help them to become better educators by appropriate lesson planning. It's not so much on the plan itself, getting it written and then using it out how it can. It's how to unpack it and do what you need to with your students.
It's more about the understanding of the learning objective and unpacking it versus this framework that I talked about earlier is how it's organized. And this is more talking about how you unpack it and understand it and write it in an objective, which is another step we need to make in curriculum is how we post our objectives to be consistent. And that's something I think we can talk about together. That's a whole other step, but learning objective need to be written with content and cognitive specificity. And that I would see as a part of this more than it's not congruent with Teach Resource System. Teach Resource System is the law, so we have to do that. So I think it's the same. I just think from what I'm hearing from you, it's that more depth of understanding of how to unpack the T.
Right.
And then use that content and cognitive specificity so the kids are using that same.
So we use Teach Resource System, that's where they're getting the TEAC to unpack, but then the first step, like back in August, we worked on what's the knowledge that the kids bring and what's the skill that they're going to need. So you figure out what are they already going to know, where are the misconceptions, where do you move forward. But we've had every month, we've had a different focus. So that this month right now, we're on formative assessment exit tickets. What does that look like in a pre-K classroom? So that you're actually getting data to drive your instruction. So yes, it's rooted in Teach Resource because that's where our TEACs are coming from. But other than that, it's the process on how to be effective with what you have.
So, Trustee West, I'll just kind of add a little bit to that. You might have 30 TEACs and you did one for English language arts. We're unpacking 2 per 6 weeks per se. And so with those unpacked TEACs, our plan is once we get this management system going, it'll be a resource underneath it, but it's still following the TEACs that we're looking at. So we're not wasting any time. It's going to actually help us get a head start when we are able to merge the other plans. So it's not like they're wasting time or anything. They're actually going ahead and jump starting.
Right. That's what I was hoping.
Lesson plans get you across anyone, but I am excited to see what you're talking about and giving the teachers the flexibility and giving them more or allowing me to do what I do.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Allowing me to do what I do. Unpacking the TEACs and doing that. I'm looking at the younger teachers coming in. What you're going to provide will be the week of what they need. And your leadership will be able to guide them through what he has highlighted here at the top to unpack and to make those lesson plans or whatever you're doing come to life. And that's when you're going to see the difference in what you were asking in those scores. Because when you're looking at that and you do it at the beginning of the year, it is just a review of what you've done in everybody first 6 weeks. My kid is so smart. He got all day a baby go to the next one. Right. And so you're getting into the videos. Yes. So you'll be able to see the difference when you present that and you're able to see.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, is there a motion?
Make a motion for the approval of the essential school framework targeted improvement plans for Bay City High School, Bay City Junior High, Tenny Hills Elementary, Ring Rock Living Roberts Elementary and Cherry Elementary.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to his motion? All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions, comments, clarification? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, sir. All right, on to consent agenda. Is there anything before I get started that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, approval of order of annual trustee election, the approval of minutes from previous meetings, November regular board meeting 11/15/22, December special board meeting 12/28/22, the approval of the finance report November 22 and December 2022, and the second reading of local policy BE local board meetings and DC local employment practices. Is there anything that would like to be pulled? There a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Great, there's a motion made. Is there a second to the motion? Second. All right, we have a first and a second. Anything, comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, and on to the last item, adjournment. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, there's a first and a second. Are there any further comments or questions? Thank you all so much for everything. I truly appreciate it, and I know the board feels so appreciated. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Opposed?